Conference sent a letter to House Speaker Billy McCoy to explain the principles we will stand by when considering the budget issues during the legislative session. Speaker McCoy refused to appoint any Republicans, any House Republicans, to represent the House on the Joint Legislative Budget Committee. But even so and still, we're going to move forward and we're going to be a participant in this process. You know, in times past, budget recommendations have often been described as the House plan or the Senate plan or the governor's plan. Going forward, we want to be clear that there may be indeed a House Democratic leadership plan, but that plan does not necessarily include the full House membership, and it certainly did not include any of the House Republicans. However, the House Republican Conference wants to work with Speaker McCoy, our colleagues in the Senate, Lieutenant Governor Bryant, and Governor Barber to reach a reasonable, fair, and sustainable budget. And in so doing, we thought it appropriate to outline the guidelines that we in the Mississippi House Republican Conference have agreed to in considering budget policies. First, with regard to general budget considerations, the Mississippi House Republican Conference seeks a budget that encourages job retention and creation, that prudently spends the rainy day fund, that does not depend on one-time monies for recurring expenditures or raid special funds, and which cuts the size of state government. The Mississippi House Republican Conference also is going to work for a budget that promotes job creation policies, because we believe that job retention and creation is the most urgent need in Mississippi. We pledge our support to policies that encourage entrepreneurship and job growth. And we will oppose legislation that will shoulder our state or our employers with new governmental mandates and taxes. Mississippi workers, not Mississippi's government, will provide the exodus from this recession. We would empower them with opportunity, not burden them with restrictions. We also propose to maintain the rainy day fund over 3 years. We believe that Mississippi must prudently use the rainy day fund to ensure financial resources for another 3 years. Mississippi will continue to see revenue shortfalls, so we will oppose any attempt to excessively drain the rainy day fund. Not preserving this fund for the next 3 fiscal years is short-sighted and irresponsible. We will not support a policy that lets us feast today but starves us tomorrow. The legislature has a responsibility to Mississippi and to her taxpayers not to create a budget based on one-time or on time-limited funds. We need a reasonable, long-term, sustainable budget. Living beyond our means on one-time money would be irresponsible and will only make things more difficult when the money runs out, and we know it will. Likewise, the legislature entrusts special fund agencies with the responsibility to manage taxpayer dollars prudently. These taxpayer-funded agencies should be operated responsibly and transparently and should not be penalized by the legislature for doing so. So we will oppose any efforts to raid special fund balances. Now, with regard to the reduction of the size of state government, it's simple. We must right-size state government to root out inefficiencies and serve our citizens better. Mississippi families are making cuts, and Mississippi's government should make cuts too. One way to do this is to allow officials greater flexibility to streamline their operations. For too long, we have tied the hands of state managers and prevented their ability to save taxpayer dollars. The Mississippi House Republican Conference will support such policies that promote agile, adaptable, and more efficient government. And on that note, let me say that the Mississippi House Republican Conference also looks forward to working with Lieutenant Governor Bryant and the Senate to implement the reforms set forth in the report from the Commission for a New Mississippi. The Mississippi House Republican Conference also opposes tax increase. Raising taxes during these difficult economic times is the wrong approach and one that we will ardently oppose. As a general policy, we will oppose any attempts to increase fees, hidden taxes, on our citizens. We should not try to prop up our state budget by making taxpayers cough up more of their hard-earned dollars instead of state government learning to live within its means. And by adhering to these budget principles, we will usher in a more efficient government that promotes job growth and paves the way for economic prosperity. I want to thank all of y'all for coming today. We thought it important to lay out the position of the Mississippi House Republican Conference as it comes through the budget process. I thank you so much, and we'll now open it up for questions if anybody has any questions. Any questions? And